Hey everyone, I'm the Rev. Now it's no secret that I love a bit of Le Mans Ultimate, so in this video I'm going to go through 12 tips. These are just some quick tips, things that I wish I'd known when I started playing Le Mans Ultimate. Hopefully I can give one or two people just a bit of information that they didn't have before, but without any messing about, let's get into it. Tip 1. Moving the seat up and down. Now if like me, you like to have the centre of the viewing window out the windscreen in line with your eye line, then you're going to want to move the seating position up and down. Luckily, this is really simple. Head into the settings, go into the camera, and under seat and field of view, you'll find the adjust seat up and down. I've set it to Q&A on the keyboard, and that allows me to really quickly move the horizon so it's in line with my eye line, which allows me to see the apex of corners better. Tip number 2. Now if like me, you're used to games having like a time trial mode, then you'll be a bit shocked to find that Le Mans Ultimate does not feature such a mode. So how do you get the track to yourself? Well, the easiest way to do that is to go to a race weekend, go to the advanced settings, under sessions, there is a little toggle for private practice, and that will give you the track all to yourself so that you can run a setup test or just run some laps on a particular track to try and learn it before you venture online. Tip number 3. If you've played a lot of Assetto Corsa Competizione, this may be something that you're familiar with. If you go into settings, controls, wheels and pedals, it's a good idea to set your steering wheel maximum rotation to the same degrees that you have it set in your wheel software. So for example, I have mine set to 900 in-game and set to 900 in the Fanatec software. I find this amount of rotation to be ideal, especially so that I don't have to turn the steering wheel massive amounts in slower corners like the bus stop at Spa for example. Tip number 4. Locking the horizon. Now this is a dead simple setting, but I really find that it helps on bumpy tracks like Sebring for example. I don't want the camera to be moving around all the time, bumping up and down. My eye would dial that out in real life, so I don't want it in the game as I don't find that it helps me. So by setting this down to low, I found that it stabilised the camera just enough so that I could still get my braking points and my apexes without losing any kind of immersion. This was a great little setting, so I would recommend this one. Tip 5. Now this is a dead simple one. When you're in the menus and you're clicking the up arrows to move some settings up and down, a left click, that moves the value up 1. However, a right click moves the value up 10. So it's just a bit of a time saver. Instead of having to click millions of times, if you use the right click, the value jumps by 10. So that's just a little time saver. Tip number 6. Riding those brakes. Now when you first come out of the pits on Le Mans Ultimate, you'll have no brake temperature and no tyre temperature. For the first half a lap, I'll just rest my foot on the brake pedal, especially when I'm coming out of the pits, as it just allows me to generate a bit of brake temperature so that I can actually stop the car into the first couple of corners when I've no tyre temperature. There's nothing more annoying than coming out of the pits, taking a few corners and spinning the car immediately on the brakes. This allows me just to build a bit of brake temperature, which stops that frustration. Ride those brakes people, ride those brakes. Tip number 7. No coasting into slow corners. Now, on Le Mans Ultimate, it's got to be one of the only sims where I've found where coasting into a slow corner actually causes me to spin. So when I'm going into a slow corner on Le Mans Ultimate, I don't have a big gap where I come off the brake and I go back onto the accelerator. I mentioned this in another video. When I come off the brakes, I come back onto the accelerator, even if it's only a small amount, 10, 15%, just so it settles the car down, keeps it planted, keeps that little bit of forward momentum, and that way I've got control and I don't tend to spin it into slow corners. This is the one tip that I've found that's really helped me with over-rotating the car in slow speed corners. I was having massive trouble spinning all the time, and this is what I've found has really helped me, so I have a little bit of throttle in the slow corners rather than coasting. That is tip number 7. Tip number 8, the free camera. Now if like me, you might need to make some screenshots every now and again, if you head into the settings, go to free camera and bind a button on your keyboard to enable the free camera. You will have to set up the directional buttons as well, but once you've set those keys up, it will allow you to move the free camera around in the replay mode so you can get yourself some half decent screenshots. Tip number 9. In the cockpit view, if you press the number 3 on your keyboard, it will toggle your mirrors. So sometimes you have the virtual mirror in the top centre of the screen, but you don't always need it. As in this Cadillac for example, the actual mirror within the car serves itself, so there's no point in having a duplication just above it. So hitting number 3, that'll change the mirrors. Tip number 10, the audio cue. Now, on Le Mans Ultimate, I found that there is a specific sound in terms of the tyres screeching that means I am on the absolute edge, the absolute limit, and I'm about to lose it. So if I hear this noise, it's an instantaneous click within my brain that I'm about to lose it. So I either get off the throttle, apply a little bit of brake, take some steering angle off, whatever the situation. But this audio cue, this is what tells me I'm about to lose it. If you listen out for it now, the tyres start to screech, but then they go higher pitched. There's a higher pitch point, and that is where you're about to lose it. Now, I don't manage to save it this time, but it was a great example of hearing that audio cue that you're about to lose grip. So keep your ears open for that noise. Tip 11, the instant replay. When you're driving along, something interesting might happen in front of you, or you just might want to go back and see what's just happened. If you hit R on the keyboard, you activate the instant replay feature. This allows you to go back and review what happened. It could be the way you took a corner, or it could be an incident that occurred in front of you. Either way, it allows you to go back and review what happened from the cockpit cameras, from the TV cameras, wherever you wish. And then once you're done reviewing, it jumps straight back, gives you a countdown, and you're back on track. Now, tip number 12. Now, this is kind of 2 tips in one, and it's also a very short explanation of what is a massive topic. Now, I found that on Le Mans Ultimate, I was locking the brakes up constantly. I also found that the brake bias was heavily weighted towards the front on the vast majority of the cars. So once I wound that back a few clicks, I stopped locking up. I had a bit more stability, the car was more neutral, shall we say, under braking, so I wasn't constantly locking the fronts up. The second thing is the traction control slip angle. Do you find that some people or the AI are coming out of corners way faster than you? Once again, the TC slip angle option, I found that was really aggressive, and when it was set to 10. I would wind that back to around 6 or 7, which just allowed me to put the power down a little bit better out of corners. Now, you still have to be gentle on the throttle, but it just means that the angle of the car where the traction control will come in is a lot shallower, so I don't get as much traction control slip on my way out of corners. So I would definitely play with the traction control settings. They're very aggressive from standard, so I'd wind those back a touch. I did find that most of the time, as I say, a traction control slip angle of 7 was ideal for me. And there ends my 12 little tips for Le Mans Ultimate. Like I say, I just wish I'd known these things before I started playing. Hopefully you've learnt one thing, just one thing that you didn't know before, and if not, then you have my apologies. It felt a bit weird making a tip video anyway, because at the end of the day, who am I? I'm just some bloke on the internet, and I'm a bang average sim racer. But I hope that the video's helped, and if it's not, I hope it's been enjoyable anyway. As always, I've been the Reverend. Thank you very much for watching.